Hello, this is Hubi Hofmann at /zerorecords.com, and you're about to witness a mixed breakdown of the new Radio Haze record. And I hope you enjoy. Okay, here I imported the mastered recording and the raw recording without any mix plugins on it, and I level matched both of them so we can do a fair comparison. So let's hear what that sounds like.
Was never meant to be fixed, never meant to be fixed. As much as I hate to see you go, I'm out of magic tricks, no more magic tricks.
So there's quite a difference. That's why we're gonna jump into the mix session and see what the details look like. But before that, we're gonna take a look at the instruments themselves, how we recorded them, and what was the raw sound to begin with. Let's start off with drums. Beginnen wir bei der Kick-Bass-Drum. Hier ganz innen drin liegt eine Grenzfläche Sennheiser E901 für den Kick, für den Anschlag, so ein bisschen, für den Beater. Hier draußen das legendäre Eich D112 AKG für so den bisschen eher Vintage-mäßigen Sound. Und hier der gute alte Yamaha Subkick, im Endeffekt nur ein umgedrehter Lautsprecher, der die ganz, ganz tiefen Frequenzen nur so unter 200 rüberbringt. Und diese drei dann in Kombination oder eben wahlweise das eine oder das andere geschaltet ergibt unseren Kicksound, den ihr dann gleich hören werdet. Weiter geht's mit der Snare. Hier eine Kumo Pro 2 Model Custom, eher Hofmanns Steinsnare. Unten ein klassisches SM57, oben drüber eine
Telefunken M80.
Genau, was ist das für ein komischer Bart, den du da liegen hast, er?
Das ist kein Bart, das ist der Mr. Muff.
Mr. Muff.
Eine Möglichkeit der Dämpfung für Toms, für Snares. Zusätzlich habe ich noch einen Evans Dämpfungsring. Je nachdem, wie trocken der Sound sein soll.
Welche Fälle hast du benutzt?
Auf der Snare ist ein Evans Genera und auf den Toms ein Evans UV1.
Da kommen wir gleich dazu, ja.
Bei der Bassdrum ein Evans Calftone. Genau, Evans Calftone.
Gibt es einen bestimmten Grund, warum du diese Fälle das mal gewählt hast?
Die UV1 für die Toms, weil ich einlagige Fälle wollte und weil die mir von vielen Kollegen empfohlen worden sind. Das Evans Genera habe ich schon öfter für die Snare, auch für andere Snares benutzt und war bis jetzt immer eigentlich das geilste Ergebnis. Für die Bassdrum das Evans Calftone, weil das ja eher wie die Naturfälle gestrickt sind und hat einfach ein bisschen vintage-mäßigeren Sound. Gibt es aber in unterschiedlichen Varianten, einmal mit Ring innen drin und einmal ohne Ring, und ich habe die mit Ring.
Kurz noch dazu, wir haben die Bassdrum auf ein Fis runtergestimmt ungefähr, weil das zu den meisten Tonarten irgendwie, in denen wir spielen werden, dazu passt. Die Snare geht momentan auf ein B, ebenso aus selbigen Grund. So, wir schauen weiter zu den Toms, wie vorher schon erwähnt, die besagten UV1-Fälle auf den Toms. Mikrofone haben wir hier verwendet, die Sennheiser 904, E904. Wir gehen weiter bei den anderen Toms sieht es ähnlich aus, ne? Auf die Mitte gezeigt, hier irgendwie. Auf den Toms ist auch jeweils so ein kleiner Moongel drauf, um die ein bisschen abzudämpfen. Die sind natürlich, werden von Song zu Song tatsächlich in einigermaßen tonartlich passenden Tönen gestimmt dann. Wie sieht's mit den Becken aus? Istanbul Mehmet.
Genau, Istanbul Mehmet Becken ist Traditional Ride, 21 Zoll, sehr dünnes Ride, für Jazz geeignet, aber durchaus auch, wenn gecrashed, für rockige Varianten. Und die Crashes sind Black Bell 20 Zoll und ein 19 Zoll und die Hi-Hat ist eine Mammoth Legend 15 Zoll.
Genau. Alright. Und genau, hier zu guter Letzt oben haben wir noch die beiden Neumann KM 184 Overheads zentriert überm Kit, so dass es ein ziemlich ausgewogenes Klangbild ergibt von dem ganzen Kit und so aus der Perspektive des Drummers, so dass es fast so hört wie dem Drummer, wie die Ohren des Drummers. Dabei haben wir darauf geachtet, dass Bassdrum und Snare eben auf der Aufnahme bei den Pegeln eigentlich immer bei jedem Schlag mittig sitzt und in beiden gleich laut ist sozusagen. Aber trotzdem noch von jedes Becken deutlich ortbar ist in seiner Richtung. Das legendäre Trash-Mic. SM58, Klassiker. Wir sind einfach im Raum rumgegangen und haben geguckt, wo denn ein ganz interessanter Klang vom Gesamtschlagzeug irgendwie zu hören ist. Und haben da dann einfach ein Mikro hingestellt und das dann kaputt gemacht. Und wenn man das leise in den Mix dazu fährt, dann gibt es so diesen, andere benutzen Room Mics. Wir haben jetzt hier keine Room Mics tatsächlich, sondern wir benutzen das hier als Room Mic. Soweit zum Schlagzeugset. Lass uns das einfach mal anhören, wie das so klingt. Okay, we got different preamps here, like the Neve 1073 for like a vintage drum sound. On snare, there's a Sentry Tube channel strip with a little bit of compression. Face flipped. The D112 also ran through a Neve 1073 and the Trash mic through heavily compressed Sentry Tube channel strip and the distressor in nuke mode to destroy. Every other track is running through the tape machine, Studer A800, and on some of them also the LA3A to prevent clipping. And that's basically it. Okay, so this is how it sounds like. This is just the kick. 3 kick mics summed together to one bus without any plugins on it, just like we recorded it. And this is with all the plugins on. Again. Okay, so what I did here was basically the sub kick is left untouched, nothing with the sub kick. The egg microphone here, D112, slight limiter, which takes off some of the spikes and just makes it more even in level, which is basically the same thing that I did on the E601. At the end of the chain, I'll take out the sustain. Like you've heard, there's a lot of boomy sustain going on. This is what takes out all of that sustain. Slightly increase the attack, like a compressor would do, and decrease the sustain. Limiting or compression, if you will. The same on the kick bus. And there we have some kind of tube processing, which increases saturation and decreases harmonics, which just sounded good and made it a little more audible. Yeah, and there's an equalizer on each of those tracks, which kind of takes out some of that low mid mud, and of course it takes out some low frequencies because I wanted to have access to the low frequencies just via the sub kick. Remember, which is operating just below 200 hertz. And we want the kick microphones like the D112, which is entitled Egg here, and the kick, which is the Sennheiser. We want those to operate only in the higher frequencies to get the kick. And on the Egg microphone, I also slightly boosted the top end and took out some of that low mid mud that we don't want here. And that's all about it for the kick drum. Once again, That's it. Nice round kick drum. Let's go into the snare. This is the snare. On snare top, I just gave it a little more weight with lead wings root 1. See before and after. Yes, just a little more body. And the snare bottom just has a gate on it. Yeah, nothing more to say. This is the snare sound. So, on to the toms. Where I just used EQs, and mainly just to get rid of some of the lower frequencies that we don't need on that particular tom, and yeah, some cuts in nasty frequencies that we don't want to hear, like this one or this one. So we're gonna take those out a little bit, and the same goes for the second tom, just a little lower, this additional overtone that we don't want. And for the lowest tom, I even boosted the lowest fundamental a little bit, which should be around 73 hertz, which is, I think, a low D. Yeah, and took out some of that ugly sounds over there. Oh yeah, and I panned them in drummer's perspective, like the left tom to the left, the right tom to the right, and the low floor tom, in this case I would have panned it like this to get like a nicer stereo field, but on some instances I just left it in the center when there's like big fat tom hits or something like that. Toms before and after. I think you can hear the difference. And then we get on to the overheads. Where I've done just nothing. Room, which is just a mono room in this case. Nothing. Then we got some additional instruments here, which are hand claps that we did, which have no processing on them at all. The tambourine, which just has a slight high shelf and a room. Yeah, just some slight room on there. Same with the shaker, which doesn't have a room on it at all. Just the high shelf. And the bongos. Bongo. Which were recorded in stereo with a Townsend Labs L22 Sphere microphone, which is a stereo microphone, and we recorded basically the right bongo is the higher one and the left one is the lower one. No processing at all. Okay, and let's take a listen to all the drums together. I also routed them through a bus and took out some ugly frequencies that made it sound a little bit boxier. See before and after. Okay, then I did some slight compression on it. which is going to take away like maximum 3 dB, and which kind of increases the attack. Which kind of gives it a little more energy. And then I put some additional room on that, some Ocean Way Studios room. Without it, it sounds like this. Just some very slight room. I'll exaggerate that. This is very exaggerated. Let's left to that. So this is without. With a little bit of room on that. And in addition to that, I also put a dynamic EQ on the drums, which kind of just works when there's too much high frequency content. That's it for drums. Let's take a listen before and after. Just the raw drums. Okay, this is it for drums. Yo, this is bass. Eich TR900, gain 12 o'clock. We don't use any compression. Taste on 3 o'clock, lows, low mids, untouched, and a little slight boost at 1200K. And a slight boost for the highs. The rock knob, which kind of emulates some tube saturation, 10 o'clock to the DI. Inside the console, we just routed the bass through a Studer A800, like all the other channels. And on top of that, there's the LA3A limiter, just for the extreme peaks. And it sounds like this. This is what it sounds without any plugins. With plugins. Without. So what I did here was take out some of the real low energy for where the kick drum is gonna be operating, and took some of the low mids out to make room for the guitars and for vocals and for some other elements in the mix, and that's where the bass had too much energy anyway. So. And yeah, a compressor that just compresses a little bit here. Nothing fancy. With a soft distortion to make it even more growly, and just listen to the bass before and after. Well, actually, that's not a fair comparison because this is kind of boosting the signal a little bit because I took away here. Actually, I would have boosted to match the loudness and then for the signal to go into the compressor without any level change, but I was too lazy to do that and compensated for it boosting the loudness here so that the whole before and after is at the same level. So that's basically the most important thing, to not be fooled by loudness. Always keep your before and after at the same loudness, so you can judge apples by apples. Let's go on to guitars. With nothing on them. And here's with all the plugins. So that doesn't do a whole lot. Actually, it's just rolling off the frequencies below 80 Hertz, because the lowest note is an E in our case, and we don't need any rumbling that was coming from the room or somewhere else. I panned them hard left and hard right and sent them through a bus, slightly rolled off the low end even more, took out some 200 Hertz to make room for the bass, and put some little room on it. Let's go on to the additional instruments, and we got a Rhodes here that just has a lexicon reverb on it. Same with the melody, which is also some kind of electric piano sound. Chorusy electric piano, same lexicon reverb, and some kind of stereo delay to make it swirl around. This delay just delays the left signal an eighth note and quarter note for the right signal, so we get this nice little difference that makes it swirl around. Another B3 organ sound without anything on it. Let's go to the vocals. The three of us all sang through the Townsend Lab Sphere L22 mic with a mic model of a M49, which is some kind of vintage Neumann microphone, and some EQ to take out some low mid mud, and below 80 Hertz there's not gonna be a lot more except for rumbling from the mic stand or whatever, so we don't need that. Compressor, which basically just compresses a little bit.
The only thing you wanted to know is
we got Isotope's Nectar here, which just took out some frequencies that I didn't like and boosted the air slightly. Another compressor.
The only thing you wanted to know,
which is working a little bit harder than the first one. And we got a de-esser.
The only thing you wanted to know.
And we got some saturation that slightly acts like a tape machine, which kind of rolls off and makes the sound a little bit warmer.
The only thing you wanted to know is exactly how far I could bend till I broke in the end.
Yeah, which is what we like. And then some kind of, actually the only Waves plugin that I use, and I basically just use it for this doubler or sometimes a delay.
The only thing you wanted to know is exactly how far I could bend till I broke in the end. I really only wanted you to know that a piece fell out of me, but you did.
Basically, this is just the stereo widener a little bit. And then there's the Pro R Fab Filter Reverb.
The only thing you wanted,
which is kind of a slapback sound.
The only thing you wanted to know is exactly how far I could bend till I broke.
Yeah, and that's it for vocals. See the whole before and after.
The only thing you wanted to know is exactly how far I could bend till I broke in the end. I really only wanted you to know that a piece fell out of me, but
Without reverbs.
is exactly how far I could bend till I broke in the end. I really only wanted you to know that a piece fell out of me.
So as you can hear, there's not a drastic change in the voice. The most drastic change definitely is the reverb at the end. And the same applies to my and Air's voices.
The only thing you wanted to know is exactly how far I could bend till I broke in the end.
Pretty much the same as Phil's.
The only thing you...
Let's listen to the chorus maybe.
We don't get to choose the path we're on. We don't get to choose the path we're on. We don't get to choose the path we're on. We don't get to choose the path we're on.
And the same for Air's vocals.
We don't get to choose the path we're on. We don't get to choose.
Which actually might be my vocals. Sometimes even I can't tell which vocal was mine and which was Air's. So, but I'm pretty sure that this was my vocal. But in some instances, this might be Air and this might be me and this might be Air and this might be me. Here we got some more high-pitched vocals.
When the toughest skin started to stretch so very thin.
Yeah, which is basically Air and me 100 times. No, 5 times actually.
Someone had to break out of this cage. We didn't realize we're in. Toughest skin started to stretch so very thin.
These are the same settings as Phil's or my vocals or Air's vocals, with just some more delay and reverb on them. That's it for the whole song. So let's do a quick before and after again. So this is the difference. And what I forgot to mention is I got some plugin on the master bus, which doesn't do a whole lot, just take out some of the low mids here, which I didn't like. It was like too boomy. You can take a listen. So I took those out and some kind of, actually that's a multiband compressor, which kind of compresses all the bands equally. Only the high frequencies a little more on an RMS basis, which I tend to use as an overall equalizer, actually. Yeah, well, this is kind of, just overall balance the EQ shape. That's it for the whole song. That's it for the mix. Yeah, here's another before and after again.
To mend what was never meant to be fixed, never meant to be fixed. As much as I hate to see you go, I'm out of magic tricks, no more magic tricks.
Wow, what a whole bunch of small moves can do to the big picture. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed what you've seen and heard, and I hope you're as excited as we are for the new Radio Haze release, which is called Strangers. If you haven't had a chance to get your copy, head over to radiohaze.com/shop and get your copy while supplies last. If you want to see more videos like this one, let me know in the comments and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.